Hi, it's Krista at The Secret Yarnery. Today we are making this gorgeous crochet bouquet flower poncho. To make your crochet flower bouquet poncho, you're going to need yarn. I just used size 4 worsted weight acrylic. I used 550 grams of the gray, 100 grams of the green, but I only had this much left over. So if you're shopping for green, maybe grab a little bit more than 100 grams. And 200 grams or 2 balls of purple for your flowers. I used a 6mm crochet hook. You will also need 6 stitch markers, 5 in one color and 1 in a different color. If you have them, you can totally do the pattern without stitch markers if you want to. You'll also need a pair of scissors and a needle for sewing in your ends. Here are the timestamps. You can jump back into where you left off, and let's get started. So grab 5 stitch markers of one color and 1 stitch marker of a different color, so 6 stitch markers in total. And we're going to chain sets of 14. So leave a longer tail, about 8 inches, make a slip knot, any which way you normally do. Shrink that down, pop it onto your hook, and chain 14. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. Now we have our pretty little V's. I'm just going to put my hook on top of those V's and turn my chain to the side. We want to be looking for these camel bumps or these back loops along the back of our chain. And we want to pop a stitch marker into the very first camel bump or the very first back loop right there. So just a regular colored stitch marker. The fancy colored one is going to be last. And then go ahead and chain 14 more. If you'd like to follow along with the written pattern, all of my patterns are available on my website, secretyarnery.com, and all of my patterns are written in plain English, just like I was sitting there right beside you. Roll that chain to the side, and we're going to pop another stitch marker into that very first back loop right there. Just like that. Now pause the video, keep working along, chaining sets of 14 until you have used up all 5 stitch markers with your fancy color being the last one. So there I've used up all 5 stitch markers, ending with my special colored stitch marker. If you want to make yours smaller, you can just take out one of these sets of 14. Now chain 1, and we want to make 1 single crochet into that very same back loop where our stitch marker is, right there. So just slide your hook in and make 1 single crochet. And I'm keeping those stitch markers where they are. You could move them up to the next stitch if it's easier for you. And now 1 single crochet into each back loop. So each of these camel bumps, just slide that back loop onto your hook and make 1 single crochet into each. You can pause the video and keep working along, 1 single crochet into each back loop, and I'll meet you when we get to the end of our chain right over here. When you get to the end of your chain, make sure you go into that very last back loop with your last single crochet, just like that. And now we're going to lay it out flat. You might also notice that our chain is tighter or smaller. It's a bit like wiggly. Our chain is tighter than our stitches. We want that. That's going to help keep the shape of our neckline. So don't worry about it. Now lay out your single crochet row so it is all facing up like a little train track, no twists. And we are going to work in to the very first stitch by our fancy colored stitch marker. So we're going to work in to this stitch right there, the very first single crochet we did. So just pop your hook in. We're going to make one single crochet. No twists, one single crochet. And into the same stitch, one half double crochet. Just like that. And now into the next stitch, one double crochet. And one double crochet into each of the stitches all the way along until we reach our stitch marker. Now, if it's hard for you to see what stitch you are working into, you can move that stitch marker up or just pop another stitch marker into that same stitch. Just like that. So if you're new to crochet, it might be a good thing to do. And I just like to add a stitch marker instead of taking this one out and moving it, just so I can guarantee, if I think back and wonder if I did it right, I can just check. Because you can see that's the stitch where the stitch marker is. So I just tip it up, and then you can see that this is the stitch that goes along with it. See how they're both in the same stitch. So you can go ahead and do that for all of your stitches or all your stitch markers. Just put a second one in up top. And now into each stitch all the way along, one double crochet into each stitch. You can pause the video, keep working along, one double crochet into each stitch all the way until you get to your stitch marker. When you reach your stitch marker, you can pop it out, chain one, and into that stitch where our stitch marker was, two double crochets. So that's what we're going to do every time we get to a stitch marker. Now you can grab that stitch marker again and put it into that chain one space. We're just marking our sections now as we go along. So now you can pause the video again, one double crochet into each stitch, and I'll meet you when you get to the next stitch marker. When you reach the next stitch marker, we're going to do the same thing. So pop it out, chain one and two double crochets into that stitch. And pop your stitch marker back into that chain space. And now pause the video and keep working all the way around, doing the same thing, one double crochet into each stitch until you get to the stitch marker. Pop the stitch marker out, chain one and two double crochets into that stitch, put your stitch marker back into that chain one space, and keep working all the way around. I'll meet you when we get back here to our special stitch marker right where we joined. When you get back to the join, make sure you've gone into every stitch before our join. So I have one more stitch to work into. And now we are ready to keep going in our spiral. So into this first stitch of this second half, we are going to do two double crochets. So no chaining one. We're just going to straight over jump to two double crochets into that first stitch. And now we can pop our stitch marker up, our special one. And I'm going to put it right before those two double crochets, right where the chain space would be if we did one. Just like that. And now one double crochet into each stitch all the way along until you reach your stitch marker. So same thing as we did before. Just one double crochet into each stitch all the way along. So you can pause the video. I'll meet you when you get to your stitch marker right over here. When you get to your stitch marker, chain one and into the stitch right after our stitch marker, two double crochets into that first stitch right after our stitch marker. And now one double crochet into each stitch all the way along. And we're going to do the same thing when we get to our next stitch marker, chain one and two double crochets into the first, and then one double crochet into each stitch until you get to the next stitch marker. We're going to do the same thing, chain one and two double crochets into the first stitch after our stitch marker. So you can pause the video, keep working around, same as before. I'll meet you when you get back over here to our special stitch marker. When you get back to where we joined, our different stitch marker right there, we are ready to just treat this like a regular join. We're going to do the same thing that we do for every color stitch marker. So chain 1 and 2 double crochets into that stitch after the stitch marker. So now it is no different. We've officially started our spiral. When we get a little bit bigger, we can come back and sew this shut. I like to do this when our poncho is a little bit larger so we can make all these stitches match exactly how we want it to look. Right now it's still a little bit curly, so I'm just going to keep going and working around and around until your poncho is the size you want it to be. So now these stitch markers around our neckline, we can pop those out because now we have our sections marked nicely. Those first ones we can just remove, just like that. And our neck also looks really nice because we worked into those back loops. So it looks nice and tidy around our neckline. Now you can just pause the video, keep working around and around in a spiral, just doing the same thing every time you get to a stitch marker. Chaining 1, skipping over, and 2 double crochets into the first stitch after your stitch marker. You can also move your stitch markers up every few rows so they're closer to the edge to remind you of where your spaces are. And I'll meet you when your poncho is the size you want it to be. As your poncho grows, you can pop these stitch markers just closer down to the edge of your spaces, just so you can see them easier as you work your way around. And we can also sew together our join at the top. So go ahead and thread your needle. You want to look for those cute little V's. That is the top edge, the neckline of our poncho. And just roll that chain so you can see the very first one. And then just using the blunt end of your needle, just pop it under that first V. And back down into the first V on the other side. It's going to make a little stitch for us. Just pull that shut. Like that. And now adjust it so it looks like the rest of those stitches. And then sew in your tail. Just like that. And now I'm using the sharp tip of my needle, and I'm just going to finish sewing in that tail. Just strengthening that join area a little bit and not pulling too hard. There. So there is our neckline all joined up. Now you can pause the video, keep working along, growing your poncho until it is the length you want it to be. When your poncho is the length you want it to be, I have done 37 rows of double crochet for mine, and I don't have enough yarn to go around again. I could open up another ball of yarn, but it's okay. This is going to be the size of mine, but you can make yours any length you want it to be. The measurement of mine from the neck down to the bottom is 21 inches or 53 centimeters. So this is the special stitch marker where we stepped up. So this is finishing round 37 for me. And I have 4 stitches left. So I'm going to do 2 half double crochets, 1 into each stitch. We're just going to taper down our spiral. So 2 half double crochets and 2 single crochets. 1 and 2, and now I'm just going to slip stitch right into that chain space. 1 slip stitch and chain 1 to secure your yarn. Cut your yarn, leaving a long enough tail to sew in with a needle later. Pull your hook up, your yarn through, snug that down to secure, and now we are ready to start the leaves. To start the leaves, just pick any spot that is not where we just finished our yarn. So it's going to back up to the one before. And I'm going to put my hook in to the stitch before that space. Before any space, it doesn't matter. Grab your leaf color yarn, loop of your leaf color on your hook, bring it through, slip stitch with both strands to join, and drop your tail just holding it along the back of your work, and chain 2. 1 and 2. I'm going to jump over that space and into the stitch right after 1 single crochet, chain 2, skip 1 stitch, so we're skipping that stitch, working into the second, 1 single crochet, chain 2, skip 1, working into the second, 1 single crochet, and we're going to do this all the way along our poncho. So chaining 2, skipping 1, and 1 single crochet into the second stitch. So you can pause the video and keep working along doing your chain 2 and single crochet into the second stitch all the way along. I'll meet you when you get right back over here where we began. When you reach back to where we began, chain 2, and we're going to slip stitch into the legs of that first stitch right here to join. And now slip stitch right into this space. Just like that. We want to be in the middle of that space right there. Chain 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And now we're going to make 1 single crochet into the next space. And now our repeat is a chain 3. So chain 3, single crochet into the space. Chain 3, single crochet into the space. Chain 3, single crochet into the space. So you can pause the video and keep working around doing a chain 3 and single crochet into the space all the way around, and I'll meet you when you get right back over here where we began. When you get back to where we began, chain 3, just like usual. And now we are going to slip stitch into the very first chain right down here to join. You want 2 strands on the top of your hook. So slip stitch and chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We're going to skip a single crochet and we're going to work into the second. So now we're not working into spaces, we're working into stitches. 1 single crochet into the second actual stitch. So we're jumping over one of those valleys. Chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Skipping 1 single crochet and working into the second, right there, 1 single crochet into the stitch. So we're just making these bigger spaces around, and they are a chain 4 space. The first one was a chain 5 because that first chain is going to count as our single crochet. So chain 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Skip a single crochet and make 1 single crochet into the second. And we're going to repeat that all the way around. Chain 4, skipping a single crochet and 1 single crochet into the second. You can pause the video and keep working around doing a chain 4 and single crochet into the second stitch all the way around, and I'll meet you when you get right back over here where we began. When you reach back to where we began, you can do your chain 4 and skip over. You might have only 1 space left. If you just have 1 space, then just do a chain 3 and work right into that same spot. It will work out just fine. For me, it's a chain 4, and I'm going to slip stitch right into the center of that very first chain we made, 2 strands on the top of my hook. Just pop your hook in and slip stitch to join. And now we're going to be building our leaves right into these spaces. The spaces we just made are going to be where our leaves start. So chain 2, 1 and 2, And into the space, we're going to make 1 double crochet, 1 treble crochet, so wrap your yarn twice to start, picot, so we're going to chain 3, and slip stitch into that first chain to make our picot. Two treble crochets, one double crochet, chain 2, and slip stitch into that stitch in between our spaces. We're going to slip stitch right there to pin down our leaf. Just like that. So there is our first leaf. So we'll do another one together. So for a leaf, chain 2, 1 double crochet, 1 treble crochet, picot, so chain 3, and slip stitch into that first chain to make your picot, 2 treble crochets, one double crochet, and chain 2, and slip stitch into the stitch to pin it down. So you can pause the video and keep working around, making your leaf into each of these spaces all the way around, and I'll meet you when you get right back over here where we began. When you reach back to where we began, we're just going to slip stitch into that very first spot, right down at the bottom. Just pop your hook in and slip stitch. Chain 1 to secure your yarn. Cut your yarn, leaving a long enough tail to sew in with a needle later. Pull your hook up, your yarn through, snug that down to secure. Sew in your tails, and now we are ready to do the flowers. To start your flowers, leave about a 6-inch tail and make a slip knot any which way you normally do. Shrink that down, pop it onto your hook, and chain 14. 1, 2, 3, 13, and 14. Now we're going to work into the third chain from your hook. So wrap your yarn and into the third chain, 1 double crochet. Into the next chain, we're going to make 2 double crochets. There's 1 and 2. And into each chain all the way down, we're going to do 3 double crochets into each. So each flower is going to start with 1 double crochet, 2 double crochets, and then 3 double crochets all the way down your chain. So you can pause the video, just keep working along, 3 double crochets into each chain, and I will meet you when you get to the end of your chain right down there. So there's my 3 double crochets into that last chain, and into the same chain, I'm just going to make 1 slip stitch just to bring down that petal or bring down our flower. Chain 1 to secure your yarn, and now I'm going to leave about a 12-inch tail or 14-inch tail. This is how I'm going to join up the flower with this longer tail. So pull your hook up and your yarn through, snug that down to secure, and thread your needle. I'll be using a sharp tip needle, but you can use whatever yarn needle you have. And starting from the center, just roll it up. We want this top edge to be flat. So just roll it up. Something like that. Turn it over, and our needle's threaded. I'm just going to go back in and pin that little loose bit down, and we're just going to be working across the flower from one side to the other. And we want to be getting through all of those layers. So make sure you can't see your needle. You can't see your needle, but you also can't feel your needle. Move over a few stitches and go back across the other direction. Move a few stitches over and back across, and we're just going to do this until our tail is about 6 inches long and our flower is nice and secure from all sides. So my flower is all secure, and you want to end with your tail on the opposite side. So one tail is coming out here, the other tail is on the opposite side. Now you want to go ahead and make a whole bunch of flowers. If you're wondering how many flowers you're going to make, it is 1 flower for each leaf. So you can just go ahead and count your leaves, and that is how many flowers you are going to make, 1 per leaf. For my size poncho, I'm going to be making 76 of these flowers, 1 per leaf. If you're going to be changing colors or using multiple colors for your flowers, you can just tie them on 1 per leaf just to get an idea of how your colors will look. If you are using just 1 color, then you can go ahead and attach them. I'll show you how to do that. When you've made your flowers and sewn them together with those tails on opposite sides, we are ready to attach them to our border. An easy way to do that is with a smaller crochet hook. I think this is a 3.75 millimeter, but any small crochet hook will work just great. Then you can just kind of lay out your flowers in a way that you like. If you're using just all 1 color, then it's just 1 per leaf. No big deal. If you want to put in a different color, for me, I am doing a different color every 3 roses, or every 3 flowers is going to be like a highlight flower. So just get them laid out in a way that you like. Each of our leaves is going to be getting a flower, and we're going to be attaching our flowers to this stitch, or these 2 stitches right here on either side of that leaf. So there's our leaf. We're going to be attaching into these 2 spots for each leaf all the way around. So start by popping your hook underneath those 2 strands and bring a tail back through. It doesn't matter which tail. And then on the opposite side, this is the single crochet that is close to your work. There's another one up here. We're going to the one closest to our work. So just popping your hook in towards the center of that same leaf and bringing the other tail through. So there is our first flower. We're going to do that to our next flower as well. So again, sliding that crochet hook in towards the center of our leaf and bringing a tail back through. And again, through those 2, or through that stitch towards the center of the leaf, and bring the other tail through. Now where our flowers are touching, we have 2 tails at the same spot, right there. We can go ahead and give these a knot. If you'd rather hide your tails, you're welcome to sew in both your tails, and then just go ahead and knot those tails until they don't slip. We don't want any slipping going on, just like that. And now we can thread these 2 tails into a wide-eyed yarn needle. And you can just take them through the base of one of those flowers and out the other side. And those 2 tails you can cut off. So there is our join right there. And now we can go ahead and join the next flower right here. We're just going to repeat this all the way along. So going in towards the center of the next leaf and bringing a tail of the next flower through. And then on the other side of the same leaf, right down at the bottom, putting your crochet hook towards the center of the next leaf and bringing the opposite tail, the loose tail, through. Just like that. And now the two tails before, we can do the same thing. We can give these a nice double knot. Or a triple knot or a quadruple knot. You just want to knot it until they don't slip around, and you can pull really snug. And then thread your needle. And bring your tails through one of those flowers, out the other side, and cut them off. So you can pause the video and keep working along, joining your flowers just like that, all the way around, and I'll meet you when you get back to where we began, right over here. Once you've attached all of your roses, we are ready to wear it. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial as much as I did. I'm waiting for you in that video up there, and stay hooked.